6:30, and I'd like to reconvene this meeting of the San Lorenzo Valley Water District Board of Directors for November 6, 2025. Leah, would you take roll again?
President Smalley.
Here.
Vice President Lane.
Here.
Director Foltz.
Here.
Director Rydé.
Here.
And Director Russ.
Here.
All board is present.
Okay. I need to report that the board took no reportable actions during the closed session. Jason, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes.
Okay. Oral communications. This portion of the meeting is for any member of the public that wants to comment on an item that's within the purview of the district, but is not on the agenda this evening. For items that are on the agenda, we'll see comments from public at that point. If anybody has comments, they need to maintain the within 3 minutes limit. Does anybody want to bring up something that's not on our agenda this evening? Seeing none here and none online, we will then proceed. New business. The first item that we have on the agenda is the removal of Director Foltz from committees. This is one that I wrote the memo for, so I'm going to start off and address it. I was recently asked, we had a similar discussion 2 years ago. And at that time, one of the options that we had was what I'm now recommending, the removal of Director Foltz from committees. And at that point, I said I didn't support that removal. I wanted to just briefly or quickly go through what I've learned in the last 2 years that now causes me to say, yes, I'm recommending it, not only supporting it, I'm recommending it. First and foremost is in my mind is Director Foltz's declining to meet with our general manager when Jason contacted him after the interaction with staff. That to me was showing that, at least to me at least, Bob didn't care to want to discuss the issue. The second point, in late 23, there were 2 senior staff members that resigned and both cited Director Foltz's behavior as reason. As a result of the recent interaction with a staff member reported back to Jason that they have to worry about moving forward. I don't know what that means. I didn't talk to staff. I don't want to, but just the fact that they have to worry about moving forward, to me, is not a good place to be in. I don't want to put staff in a position where they begin to consider resignations similar to what I heard 2 years ago from 2 different individuals. Third, as the board president this year, I was the primary contact for an executive recruiter that we used for our search for a general manager. That executive recruiter told me that we were going to have difficulty recruiting any highly qualified candidates from the nearby area because of the reputation that we have as a board in having difficulty with one of our board members. In 2024, another point, in 2024, after a board meeting, one of the staff contacted me directly to say they were insulted by Director Foltz during the meeting. They related the incident to me. I had to agree with them because I heard the same thing. But they asked me not to take any action at that point. They didn't want to push it any further, and I didn't. I bring that one minor or that one incident up because to me it shows a pattern of that. And lastly, as to what I've learned, our interim director, John Kunkel, earlier this year, and Jason have also commented to aggressive nature that Director Fultis uses in questioning staff. I didn't prompt that from them. They told me that directly. And that's within a few months of them attending meetings here. So based on that, what I've learned over the last 2 years, I'm recommending that we remove him from committees to reduce the potential interactions with staff. I want to maintain the staff that we have now. And I do want to point out for anybody else that hasn't heard me say before, all of the management staff that you see in front of you at this table now have been with the district 2 years or less. And we see the same comments coming up about behavior that I've heard previously. So before I transition to Jason, I do want to lay out a couple of things. During the discussion, I request any of the board members to focus their comments on staff. I don't feel that it's appropriate for us as board members to be reflecting on how he may be, how he may have interacted with us as individuals, as board members. That's a different relationship. It's with staff that I'm trying to prevent. Also, I don't think that whatever the issue was or the concern that Director Fultz was raising is appropriate to discuss during this. It's the behavior that I'm focused on. So with that, I'm going to transition to Jason to get comments from him, and then I'd like to hear from Director Fultz before we hear from the rest of the board. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you, President
Jason.
Foley. Following the interaction referenced in your memo, I received a report from the staff member who was directly involved in describing the interaction. And that report was corroborated by another staff member who witnessed the exchange. As general manager, my responsibility is to ensure that the district business is conducted in a professional and transparent manner. I am fortunate to lead a talented and dedicated staff. And I believe that it's vital to their growth as future leaders that they have the opportunity to showcase their abilities in a public forum and before the board. My hope and my goal is that the next general manager will come from among them. For that to happen, we all share a responsibility to maintain an environment of professionalism, trust, and mutual respect. One that empowers everyone to perform their duties with confidence and integrity. I also want to emphasize that I and all district staff remain fully committed to serving every director equally. Staff will continue to uphold the direction of the board and support effective, respectful governance. I remain confident that through professionalism and respect, we will continue to move the district forward together. Thank you.
Okay. Director Fultz?
I'll go last.
Okay. All right. Brian?
I think that I do not sit on committee with Director Fultz, and as a result, don't have firsthand experience with any of the recent occurrences that have precipitated this motion or this proposal. I guess what I can say is, from my observation from board meetings, I'm not surprised that this is come to pass. I have observed disrespectful treatment on very many occasions during board meetings, and I find it very regrettable. I think that my expectations is that board members, when asking staff questions, will do so courteously and allow them to fully complete their sentences, even their full statements, before asking another question or interrupting. And what I see time and time again are interruptions. And that's the least of a long list of disrespectful treatment that I've observed. I've also spoken with staff who did not publicly state that Director Foltz was the reason for their departure, but stated that to me in private. And so while two, I think, said that publicly, I think the actual tally of resigned staff is several because of this reason. It's almost as if the director wants staff to leave. And I don't know if that's a cost containment strategy or a way of picking out who should be on staff, or some intervention in the duties of the general manager by driving people out. But I think it's I won't speculate further on intent, but it's certainly a consequence. And we have a complicated district, we have a complicated landscape, and personally, I think longevity in staffing is the single best solution to that complexity, because then the people have seen stuff before. Having good teamwork is extremely important. And while maybe it's bonding for staff to join against a common adversary, I think the board should be allied with staff and work together as a team, because we're all trying to solve the problem. Anyway, that's
Okay.
what I have to
Thank
say.
Alina?
Yeah, I didn't witness this particular instance, but I've seen it many times in the past at a board level and committee level. And I guess what I'm most disappointed about is that it's taken the board so long to act on harassment that's been going on for years. You know, we've lost a lot of valuable staff, and I think a lot more than what have been formally documented, because not everyone comes forward. I think you gave a perfect example of that. Maybe they don't feel safe coming forward, or maybe they fear not being believed, and sadly districts kind of justified that fear. I think that tonight is the third time that I've had to speak out about this as witness to this harassment in a formal setting. And at times it kind of starts to feel that enduring this abuse is just part of the job. But I'm really thankful that we have a general manager now that is, you know, taking this seriously and will uphold our harassment policy. I mean, every GM before this has recognized this as a problem. I do have a little bit of issue that we've had a director that served twice as president, and you failed to act given the chance. I mean, you had the power to act on this before I was ever a board member. And then again, this beginning of the year, I raised concerns both privately and publicly with you. And then I was about Director Foltz's behavior and his committee appointment specifically. Instead of addressing the issue, I was told that my comments through someone else's comments, but it felt like you were agreeing with that my comments were too much, that I was being too much for standing up against harassment of staff. And so, but we're here, it's not even a year later again, and we're removing them from the committees after I'd expressed those concerns. But I'm very proud to be able to be here and stand up for staff and call out this abuse. But I feel like something needs to change. Like it shouldn't take years for the district to be able to respond to something like this. And, you know, we've seen this pattern with directors in the past, and we really need stronger protections moving forward to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But legally and ethically, we are obligated to take formal action against Director Foltz tonight, because failing to do so would be a failure of our fiduciary duty to protect staff and taxpayers from the potential liability of, you know, harassment suit coming forward. But I would also like to request that he be removed from the ad hoc committee for the consolidation districts, because that was not listed up there. And I do believe ultimately that Director Foltz should be censured for his repeated harassment of staff spanning multiple years. And I think that recognizing this pattern and cutting it off is what's best for the district.
Okay, thank you. Director Russ?
Boy, I have not been on the two committees that Bob has been on, where I guess some of these incidents have occurred. I will say he's aggressive, assertive, has great insights and great experience. But I have to put a lot of weight We hired a general manager to be the middle person between the board and the staff. And I'm very glad that the staff felt like they could trust Jason with their issues. And Jason is standing up for you. You are the team that are going to see us through for years to come. So that's very important. And so when Jason flagged this as a major issue, a critical issue, I take that very, very seriously. From experience being on other boards, I don't take it as a given, but given both the background from 2 years ago that I had gone through and then some of the other comments here, it certainly does seem like it might be the appropriate thing to do. If I were not tied by the Brown Act, I would have just said, Bob, let's go have a beer and let's talk about this. Because I don't understand exactly what's going on. Perhaps it's just, we're all wired in different ways, and so that's okay. But expecting staff to have a suit of armor all the time isn't a realistic expectation either. And so I think we will sorely miss your contributions on those two committees and hope that you'll still be able to review those minutes and contribute in other ways. Anyway, I'm very sorry it's come to this, but I appreciate all the positions that people have taken. Thank you.
Okay. Director Foltz.
I'll go after, when I said last, I meant after public comment too.
Okay. Does any member of the public want to comment before I put a motion on the table?
I'm John Jameson from Felton, and I don't have a dog in this fight, don't want to have a dog in this fight. Nonetheless, having been the chief of medical staff at 2 different hospitals, and having been aware of situations involving doctors who got out of line, there has to be a way to preserve the system so that the organization, so that it is properly taken care of. And I think it's important for everybody who's serviced by the water board to have it succeed. And so the only thing I want to ask is there any sort of off-ramp that has been created in addition to or other than what has been proposed that would result in a more satisfactory outcome? And I don't have the answer to that question, obviously, but I'll leave it to you to figure it out.
I'm Bruce Holloway from Boulder Creek. I would not want to see an employee disciplined based on that one-page memo, that kind of description. One thing I want to point out, when I read the sentence where you said Director Foltz declined to meet with Jason, I realized, oh, I've been trying to reach Director Foltz during the last 3 weeks, just the same. About a month ago, Director Foltz, I had a problem with a file. I was trying to understand some big data file. And I asked Director Foltz for some help. This had nothing to do with the water district, by the way. And within a day or so, he was able to produce a bunch of statistics about this data, this massive data file, which pretty much answered my questions, except the only problem was that I had another file. And as soon as he answered my questions about the first file, then I had more questions about another file. And I wanted him to maybe show me what he did, show me how he was able to manipulate all that data. So at some point he said, he emailed me, he was really busy that week, and then he was leaving town. So I figured he was busy for the next 2 weeks. So I waited 2 weeks and then I tried again. Bob, can we meet? And no answer. No answer at all. until I read your memo last Friday night. And I read it and I thought, wow, this is the exact same 3 weeks I've been trying to meet with Bob and I can't get him to even answer my texts. But I reflected on the fact that Bob doesn't work for me. I don't pay Bob. And I don't think you directors are on call in between meetings. I know you get compensated for being here at a meeting, but in between meetings, you don't get any compensation at all. You're not on call. So your simple sentence about decline to meet Jason sounded a lot like an indictment. But from my point of view, it's meaningless because he might have been out of town and unable to meet. When I was trying to reach him, I looked at the district council calendar and I saw this is a 2-week gap with no meetings at all. So if he needed to pick a time to go out of town, I think he picked a good one. And if that made him unable to be interviewed, that's just the way it is. I would feel a lot better if there were more specifics.
I can see.
I see a yellow light. Are you interrupting me?
I am stopping because I need to see, is that yellow? Okay, so then you've got a minute.
Well, you've interrupted me.
I understand. Please
So
continue.
you brought up a couple of board members that are no longer here. They both had a culture of interruption. They interrupted other board members, they interrupted staff, they interrupted members of the public. So there's been enough bad behavior here to go around. But I would like to know the specifics. Did this happen at a committee meeting or a board meeting? Was Jason present when this happened? Is there more than one instance or not? Was I present at any of these meetings?
I
want more details.
Thank you. Does anybody else from the public want to comment?
Hello, I'm Cheryl Adams, a citizen member of the administration committee, but also a ratepayer. I want to praise the staff person that had the courage to bring this situation to light. It's not easy. I want to acknowledge General Manager Lillian for listening and elevating the issue to the board, and to President Smalley for taking this action. I know this wasn't easy for anybody. I worked in government my entire career, and I understand that those who possess real or perceived power must be cognizant that their interactions with staff, the public, as well as peers, needs to be respectful and courteous. Now that the district is fully staffed, we do not want to jeopardized by the actions of one of the directors. Nobody should worry that they will be threatened in an aggressive manner and in a confrontational manner in the course of their work. I am in support of this action to remove Director Fultz from his committee appointment.
Does anybody else who's online wish to comment? Seeing none, I'll move that the board remove Director Fultz from the engineering and environmental committees effective immediately, and that this shall be in effect through November 2026.
Can I make
You
an
want to hear
amendment?
from Bob first?
I do want to hear from Bob, but I wanted to put the motion out there. So
Can I amend for the ad hoc committee?
the ad hoc committee, I'll respond to that. The ad hoc committee really doesn't interact with staff on any direct basis. We have worked with our general manager to provide input, but that's all of the further.
Yes, I have had one of the members of the consolidating agencies come to me personally about concerns with Director Fultz's involvement in that. And so that is my worry.
Okay. I could consider that too, also, because I feel that the ad hoc committee is at some point soon was going to be dissolved anyhow. So how would you and remove Director Fultz from the engineering, the environmental, and the ad hoc committee formed for consolidations effective immediately? So so amended.
I'll second.
Okay, so before you take a vote, we would like to hear from Director Foltz.
Yeah, I have a statement I'm going to read. I don't believe there are any coincidences in politics, and this is the second time I've been baselessly attacked as part of contentious issues being discussed. The first being just before a rate increase vote, and now prior to a debate on the integrated pest management policy, where in my opinion, there are people clearly aligned to overturn or diminish the glyphosate ban and that policy's intent, if not stop by public opinion. Contrary to what it says in this memo, I did meet with the GM remotely as I was out of town and suggested this sounded a lot like the last time, and perhaps an investigation was in order to clear it up per board policy. I have not engaged in any violation of board policy, and I'm confident that that would be the finding had the board followed through with a due process investigation then and now as required by board policy. Unfortunately, the last board set a precedent, having established that accusations are equal to guilt in absence of any due process and without any requirement of evidence or proof. And that has given license to such behavior will be acceptable going forward, at least with respect to myself. As the district's legal counsel has allowed this kind of situation to take place in violation of board policy twice now, I cannot accept any investigation associated with our legal counsel. I will accept and welcome an investigation conducted by an attorney associated with California's First Amendment Coalition to ensure a modicum of fairness and due process. In choosing again to bypass district policy and protocol and due process, I believe this memo written by our president verges on character assassination aimed at me, but also at diminishing our district by exposing a weakness towards groupthink. Our district is facing extreme financial and infrastructure challenges because past boards have been caught up in this groupthink, kicking the can down the road, anything to avoid confronting the harsh realities with vigorous and candid debate associated with operating an organization with close to $500 million of infrastructure, much of which needs upgrading now or within the next decade or two. And that's not including the significant deferred maintenance liability. That's close to $50,000 per customer. I refuse to take part in such groupthink and reject it as dangerous to the long-term independence of this agency, something that the community clearly said it wants when the proposed merger with Scotts Valley was raised. And that is going to require a very different approach than what we have done in the past, regardless of how bad a human being anyone thinks I am or how easy it is to punish me without due process. In my opinion, the fact that I dissent and point out our district's history of feckless financial management and neglect of infrastructure and express skepticism about the notion that our infrastructure problems will be solved by grants, other people's money, along with my conservative approach to reserves and my opposition to herbicides, among other things, in a vigorous attempt to bring sound business practices to the district, as well as a 25-year history of opposing the political machine that backs the candidacy of a majority of the board, means that I am by definition a target, which makes it very easy for people to conflate dissent and skepticism and placing facts over feelings with disrespectfulness and aggression. I'm reminded of the old saying, excuse me. For this, I have in the best tradition of the Red Queen's ruled in Wonderland to be given a sentence first before any attempt was made to find out if there's anything to be guilty of, where no effort, good faith or otherwise, was made to see if there's anything other than frustration of my being serious about my fiduciary oversight responsibilities, even if that means opposing what staff wants to do. I have lived here for 40 years. I've served in various volunteer positions for almost half of that. So I have a unique perspective on our situation. So yes, vote for this. But even if this means I have to stand alone, I will never stop speaking up for the best interests and well-being of my beloved community.
Okay. I wanted to respond to one question that we got from the public. I could not share any more details than what I put into the memo as to the incident. I had initially in a draft and was advised no. take that, that's personnel information. I could not share that, so I haven't. That's all the further I can provide information on to when this happened, who it was with, what the discussion. No, can't go to any of that. So it's up to the board to then weigh the information that has been presented. So with that, any further comments? Or questions that any of the other board members might have in response to any of what was heard? It's okay to say no.
I guess maybe I'll just say that that the comments that I just heard from Director Foltz, if that tone of voice and that type of expression was what we had consistently, this wouldn't be an issue. With regard to the specific topics that sounded like a stump speech, you know, we're all quite concerned about fiscal responsibility. I thought we approved the integrated pest management plan last time, and what concerns me most is the lack of curiosity about how this happened in the first place when it's staff, not board, bringing this forward. And I guess I'm not very organized in my remarks, so I'll end it there.
So seeing,
I had I guess a follow-on question.
okay,
Bob, I greatly appreciate your comments. I think they're very well thought out. I guess I wasn't aware that you had a Zoom call with Jason. And so, Jason, if you don't mind talking a little bit about that, and how did that, how did it go? What did it result? I mean, I guess I would have assumed that there was some suggested mitigation or, response, but I wasn't aware.
Yeah, I can give you the timeline.
Okay.
After the incident, I emailed Director Foltz. I remember that he said that he was going out of town. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe he doesn't see the email. So I texted and I didn't get a response to the text. I texted again the next day. He did respond to that. We had a phone call, not a Zoom call, but a phone call, which I laid out what the incident was. And he was frustrated. Believed that it'd be a political attack, and his exact words were, I'm not doing this, and that he was going to get an attorney. And then I said, I understand, and then we left it there.
I did talk about the need for an investigation.
Okay.
Per board policy.
Any further questions or board members?
I just have to say that I think the biggest issue is that Director Foltz doesn't recognize this behavior that, has been brought forth by so many different staff. And that inability is the big issue here to be able to adjust that tone when people are telling you something is a problem and it just continues for years.
Okay. Well, I have nothing further to add. Leah, would you take a vote?
President Smalley,
Yes.
Vice President Lane,
Yes.
Director Foltz,
No.
Director Largay,
Yes.
and Director Russ.
Yes.
Motion has passed.
Okay. Moving on then, the neighbor hazard tree policy. Is Chris taking this one?
I'll be presenting that.
Okay.
So neighbor hazard tree policy. This is a policy which is intended to create a transparent decision-making process. And it's focused for trees that are on district property, which have the potential to pose a hazard to neighboring properties. This happens somewhat regularly. We get like maybe 10 to 12 calls a year of people being like, hey, there's a tree on your property. It looks, sketchy. It looks like it could hit my house, whatever. So we'll go out there and check it out and kind of, go from there. But it kind of just been done on a case by case basis up until now. So we're trying to make a process which is kind of standardized and repeatable, and whereby our decision making is clear as to why we are making the decision we are. The key pieces of the policy are the hazard tree risk matrix and the management strategy table. Essentially, the process that we will pursue with this policy is if we get a call from someone saying, hey, there's a tree out here, or if we identify one ourselves, we will begin with a property boundary estimation. So essentially that's figuring out whether the tree is going to be, if it's on our property or if it's not on our property. If it is on our property, then we proceed to the next steps, which will be actually assessing the tree. So we would get either a ISA certified arborist or a registered professional forester, and they would essentially complete the tree assessment. And based on that, they would give us kind of the risk of the tree using the hazard tree risk matrix. And then based on the scoring on the matrix, they would get their management strategy based on the score, the risk score from the matrix. And yeah, that's the basics of this. I'll leave it there, and I'll just say that we recommend adoption of the resolution and thus the policy.
Okay, all right. As chair of the environmental committee, thoughts on this? Or
Yeah, no, I think this is really important in just reducing the district's liability of, these hazard trees, and I appreciate the work that went into this. And thank you for taking the edits about, if we dispute them and getting that. Was that came from legal? That was their suggestions in handling it? Yeah. Originally there was like a waive that they could waive it away, but we were worried about if they had a guest on the property or if the property sold. So I think that laying out that plan was much better. So thank you, Chris, for this. And yeah, I don't really have any other comments on that. I think Bob was also involved a lot in this.
okay,
Yeah, we covered it a couple times in committee, I think pretty thoroughly. I think it's ready to go.
all right. Brian?
Great. My question was about legal. I'm glad that it received that review. And then my suggestions are that a land survey may be more expensive than removing the tree. And it might just be worth removing the tree if you're facing an expensive land survey. And that having an registered arborist on staff, that certification, I don't think is too challenging if you know something about trees. Might be a certified arborist rather, might be worth doing and saving some money in the long run.
And I'm actually pursuing that certification currently.
Awesome. Great.
Excellent. That's all I got. Thanks.
Okay. Director Ross?
Yeah, I guess need to be educated a little bit here. It stated that we have about 23 acres of land, so that's almost 4 square miles, right? So is our approximate border, I'm guessing 10 to 20 miles worth of borders?
So throughout our 2,300 acres,
Right.
Yeah, very rough estimation. It's somewhere in that neighborhood. And some of our land borders places that are, just other wildlands or whatever, which we're not necessarily concerned about. We're just concerned about the property boundaries where there are actually structures or infrastructure or
And do you have a guess as to how much, I guess, what length our borders might actually be, next to houses, next to structures, I'm just trying to get a handle on, because we don't have a budget for this, do we?
It comes out of our general kind of environmental budget. We don't have a particular budget for these kind of calls. We like, it's a somewhat significant amount. As I said, we get like maybe 10 to 12 calls a year, and maybe like half of those are actually on our property or actually need to be pursued further. So it is like, it is somewhat significant. It's not like a massive cost, but, yes,
What do you guess, 25,000, 50,000 a year or?
I would say like probably less than 10.
Less than
But
10?
if we're having to remove big trees, then that, they could push it over that a little bit, but yeah, it's not like a massive cost.
Okay. And it wasn't clear to me how proactive are we going to try to be in setting up this matrix and doing the survey or whatever, or is it more when a property owner says, hey, I'm worried?
Yeah, it's definitely more so when we get a call, hey, like, there's a tree that I'm not liking the look of, but also if our staff are out there and there's a tree near someone else's property, this is definitely like a good way to go. We also have that if someone gives us a call and we find that it's not really a hazard and we're gonna leave it, but it's moderate, we'll throw it in a tracker and then we'll go back out there and track it or check in, you know, every 1 or 2 years to make sure that it's still that same rating and it hasn't gotten worse and would then need to be removed or something.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think I missed it, but who evaluates and scores trees?
So that would be the registered professional forester or the arborist.
Okay. Okay, so we have to hire somebody then when you get the call or when staff report, hey, I think there's a tree here that should come down.
Yeah, if we had a arborist on staff.
Right.
We could,
Do we have an arborist on a will call contract or something like that,
yeah, we have a forester.
that we can on a as needed basis, get them out
Exactly.
for 2 hours and go look at this and see if this is score this for us. Okay. Okay, all right. Besides the surveying, which Brian already covered, that's the only comments I had on this. So anybody from the public wish to comment on this?
John Jameson again, I'm your neighbor on Felton Heights. And we have been warned by another neighbor that there are 3 Douglas firs that are in danger of coming down that are on the watershed property. So I am pleased that this issue is being taken up, and I'm not expecting necessarily emergency action, but I would like attention to be paid so that if it comes to the point that the tree is most likely to come down, then something will be done. And actually, one of your trees a few years ago did come down in the storm, but I could tell that it was damaged and it was going to fall away from our property, so I didn't worry about it. So I keep my eyes on these things, and I would appreciate your attention as well.
Yeah. And we've been in contact and it's on my list, so I'll make sure to get out there.
Okay.
Okay.
Follow-up question?
Anybody else from the
Yeah.
anybody else from the public? No, seeing none.
Just a quick one. Yeah, when I first moved to Felton 6 years ago, I had to take out some Douglas firs and they were 4,000 and 6,000 a piece. They were monsters and it was like, wow, yeah. So that's why I was asking about the budget, because I'm just thinking, if you've got a Douglas fir, boy, that's a lot of work and yeah, not easy.
The cost also, a lot of the times we're able to just leave the tree on our property. And so that is often the majority of the cost is actually removing the tree. So sometimes we get lucky in that way.
Yeah, good point.
But definitely tree work is expensive.
And how far are you away from maybe getting certified?
I just need to pass the exam, so I'm starting the process of studying up for the exam. But the book is pretty thick, so we'll see. We'll see what the timeline's looking like. But
Well, good luck.
He took the plastic off the book, but that's it. So maybe next Friday.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, then, I want to move that the board adopt the resolution adopting the neighbor hazard tree policy.
Second.
Second, okay.
Okay.
You can have it,
I don't know. which
You can
one.
have it, Director Russ.
All right,
President Smalley,
yes.
Vice President Ling,
Yes.
Director Foltz,
Yes.
Director Largay,
Yes.
Director Russ.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution will be adopted.
Okay, the reserve policy. Sherry?
Great. So this is the reserve policy that we brought forth last meeting, and then we took it back to the Budget and Finance Committee. We made some changes, and so those are in the draft tonight. The operating reserve is going to stay at 4 months of operating expenses to manage cash flow and revenue fluctuations. Capital reserve, $3 million based on the district's average annual capital spending over the past 3 years. And this reserve is intended to be used and replenished over time as part of our long-term capital funding strategy. And then our emergency reserve of $4 million, which is available for unexpected emergencies, natural disasters, and system failures.
Okay. With that, I'd like to hear from the committee participated in this, Director Russ.
Right, yeah, Brian and me.
Right.
Yeah, it was a very long and I won't say heated, but we covered a lot of ground in the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. And I think it was kind of an eye opener for all of us. I learned a lot myself. And I think after all of that hashing, and it's not that a compromise is perfect, but I think that what Sherry has presented was the committee's compromise that, you know, the big trade-off for us is we've got tens of millions of dollars worth of projects that we need, you know, construction projects that we need to do. As you know, as we know, we have almost $500 million in infrastructure. So there's always a trade-off with how much money do you set aside for replacement and just maintenance, but also then in different disasters. And when we reviewed the different disasters that have occurred, we felt like this combined number, which adds up, I don't have your table in front of me, but I want to say around 11 million would be sort of held aside. That was a sufficient number for most of what we could envision. And so in the 3 years for CapEx was kind of one of the big compromises. So I think we wanted to hopefully free up a little bit of money to allow us to actually use it on an ongoing basis for construction projects as well. So that's my quick summary.
Okay, all right. That's the quick summary. Brian?
Right, so I appreciate the process that involved, I think, 3 committee meetings looking at this, if I'm correct, and then at least the one other board meeting, which all board members made significant contributions. I'm quite grateful for Sherry, all your work on this. I think that it's a robust product. I think that it's simpler than the prior reserve policy, which makes it a little bit easier to understand. The operating reserve of 4 months, a third of a year of staff costs is a good amount of money in case there's some cash flow issue, but it doesn't overdo it. The capital reserve at 3 million is enough to tackle a pretty big project if a grant were to fall through or some serious need arose for it, but is not excessive, so that we're not putting too much in the in this reserve, and so that we can liberate some funds to do projects now. And then the emergency reserve, there was several different layers of analysis looking at worst case scenario emergencies that could precipitate the need to tap this reserve, and this is the right number based on some very close look, and going high would higher than this would stash away money that we could put to good use now. Going lower than this would make us vulnerable to the next combo disaster, which which is kind of the scenario planning that was done. Two bad things happening around the same time. So I think it's as good a policy as we could hope for, and acknowledging that there's uncertainty in this. This is risk management, and that it's hard to do because of unknown probabilities for bad things happening. And I think staff did a good job, and it's that's what I got.
Okay, all right. Alina?
I really appreciate your explanation there, Director Largay, on just how you guys got to the target balances. So that has a lot of clarity to that. And looks like you guys met 5 times. You guys have done a lot of work on this. I really appreciate the time that you guys took to dive into this. Thank you as well, Director Russ. And I'm very appreciative that we have a Director of Finance to help guide us through this and get these documents, put together, and or what our reserve should be. So, yeah, no further comments on that, but just a lot of thanks for all the work that went into this.
Okay. Director Fultz?
Yeah, this is an area that I've been concerned about for a very, very long time, because when I joined the board, the reserves were, I would say, critical. And had we not done at least what we did, which was, I don't think was enough, but at least it got us through CZU, barely. So that was good. I had a couple questions about the status of the Olympia Assessment District and fire surcharge. Is the status of those changing in any way?
I don't believe so. That's still something I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah, because they were in the original Appendix A you have here, but they weren't in the new one, I don't believe.
So those are restricted. So they won't be counted toward our reserve at all.
So they stay the way that they are.
Yes, that's correct.
Great. On the compensated absences, what kind of level are we at right now with the amount of that accrued by our staff?
I don't have that number in front of me, but I can get that for you.
Yeah, one of the reasons that we broke that out originally, and I'm just hopeful that it's accommodated somewhere, if you guys can talk about that maybe a little bit, is that when I joined the board, it was enormous. And we were really worried, and there were a lot of people that were fairly close to retirement. And we were worried about taking a big hit at one time. So if we don't have that situation again, then I'm comfortable leaving that out. That is, if the accrued vacation is lower and our cohort of employees isn't sort of right at the edge of retirement, then it's probably okay to leave it out. Did you guys talk about that at all during?
I don't think we did.
Okay.
No, because I mean, I remember seeing the number and I don't remember what it was, but I remember thinking it was relatively low currently. But like, it's relative. I mean,
$500,000, million?
No, much less than that.
Oh, okay.
200,000.
So maybe the people that retired did
Pull it out
and dropped it because it was much, much higher than that. When I
don't think it was anywhere near half that, but
that's good.
that would be good to check out.
Right. And then I'm a little bit unclear as to what triggers, I mean, it sounds to me like with the operating budget, which for a third is somewhere around 3 million, 3.5 million. So if you add all that up, it's about 10.5, something like that.
Sure.
So what is the trigger for actually tapping into each of these? Because just again, based on me being very conservative on this and very concerned about making sure we have enough money when the next disaster happens, and just when, not if. When does that actually get tapped? Because the word is target. It's more of a, again, I look for words, and that's a little bit more amorphous than we're going to maintain as a shall or something like that. So what's the trigger point that you guys were discussing?
We discussed several different trigger points. And so for instance, I think the way we left it, and I don't know if there's actually a board policy to this effect, but if an actual emergency was deemed, that would require the board to vote that an emergency has occurred, and that would unlock the 4 million. And I guess I'm under the impression that it would require board action in all of these pronouncements, whether it be an operating reserve or capital CapEx. As Brian mentioned, one of the reasons for the 3 million number was that would about maybe build two tanks. Plus or minus, maybe not quite as much, but close to that. And so again, I guess if a grant fell through or we were in the middle of something and really had to put in a replacement tank fast or repair something, that would again require a board action. Is that what you're looking for, Bob, or some other?
I am, but I don't necessarily see it in the policy. Again, I'm not so much worried about our board, but there are boards in the past that drove the reserves down as low as, I kid you not, $500,000. I mean, that is like danger. I mean, that's
not much.
Yeah, I mean, if we'd had a disaster, then it would have been all over.
Yeah.
So we can't really guarantee what future boards are going to do. And so what I'm looking for here is making sure I understand, well, what are the triggers? Because I don't see a lot in here.
I think you're right. I don't think it's explicitly put in.
And that's a concern.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes very generic as to, well, who can tap it and under what conditions? And hey, we got all this money here. And, we're in the middle of negotiations. Who knows what it is?
Right.
But
well, perhaps an addendum to the motion that basically says a board of directors vote would have to occur for tapping any of these three funds, and would have to specifically,
along with, well, see, this goes into it, right? So there's the triggers,
right?
And whether or not, for example, a formal declaration of emergency on the part of the county or the state or the feds or whatever is required to tap emergency, and then a vote. Well, what about the capital? What about the operating? Do those also fall under emergency declarations as well? Or can the board just say, hey, we want to tap into it? And do so whenever we feel like it. I mean, I don't know what the intent was, but the way it's written, it looks to me like the intent is we'll just do whatever we want, whenever. Maybe that's okay.
Or that's the way somebody else could interpret what's there.
Certainly could be interpreted.
Could I just respond? So indeed, by board action, any of the three reserves could be tapped for the purposes described under those reserves. As I see it, the prevention from imprudence measure is in the replenishment language, which states that the operating reserve has to be replenished within 2 years. The other reserves have to be replenished in 3. And so a board that's profligate, is that the word for too spendy? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But if a board gets carried away in 1 year, they're going to be obligated by the policy to save a bunch of money over the next 2 or 3 years to make up for it. So that's my understanding of how that gets balanced over time.
So let me just sort of play that a little bit, okay? Because there's a couple of ways that would be done. One way would be through a Prop 218 process, replenishing, let's say, 4 million. You'd be looking at over 3 years. You say you'd be looking at about a $15 a month surcharge per customer, more or less. The other way is to take it out of operating margin. But as we've discussed before, and I have discussed ad nauseum, probably to everybody's, boredom, our expenses grow at a pace that is significantly above inflation due to the structural nature of what our expense structure is. And so you would effectively have to be taking serious money out of your margin every year in order to replenish that if you use most of it, which would impact your ability to do loans for capital improvement.
Mhm.
So I'm pretty uncomfortable with the notion that it's sort of more. I mean, again, I'm not worried about us, because I mean, we've gone through this now, but I am very worried about somebody else.
I guess I fail to understand I mean, this hypothetical future board can do all sorts of imprudent things. And I guess it's not clear to me how further refinement of the policy this hypothetical future board can just change the policy. I mean, it's if I could. And the idea behind reserves is tapping reserve is a serious matter, and it
Should
will
be.
and will have consequences.
Yeah.
And one of the consequences is that you have to repay the reserve and replenish it. And I guess I'm not sure how to further tie the hands of our successors. The risks you're outlining are real, and the consequences of tapping reserves are significant. But I guess I'm just not clear that there's a solution in what you're implying.
Bob, do you have a suggestion for what
Well,
could be added? I mean,
possibly, but I don't know that I could construct it on the fly here or in the last, few days I've been thinking about this. But one of the things that came to mind and had been a part of a previous rate structure was we're really worried about operating reserves in two cases. In the case of an emergency, where a lot of people weren't able to pay their bill or what have you, in the case of drought. Those are really the two things that would trigger the use of that. That could be added as specific things in there. And the drought, I think the previous rate structure had, I think it was a 10% shortfall or something like that. It would trigger an increase in the rates automatically. We decided not to do that, but that could be something that would tap here. In the case of the emergency reserve, I think that is a declaration of emergency, period. I don't think that to be tapped for any other reason whatsoever. And then in the case of the capital reserve, I'm still a little fuzzy about what its intent was, whether it was meant to be a rolling fund that was always kept at 3 million as we were doing projects during the year, or whether it was meant to be a stash of money we could tap into if we got a big grant, like the DWR grant for the tanks or something like that. If that's the case, then put that language in there. If we're not going to do that, I think we basically are allowing this to be used ad hoc. Again, we may not do it, but
Jason, you want
I was wondering I'm thinking of language for the emergency reserves. If we added something to the effect of a catastrophic event that threatens the district's ability to operate or protect public health and safety, and that would be the triggering point that would bring it before the board. Something that.
it's something along those lines. But again, I can't craft it here in real time. So, and if the intent of the board here is to go ahead and pass it, and then maybe come back and add some of that, that'd be great. I'd suggest maybe we send, if everybody likes the idea of having triggers, we ask Jason and staff to come up with something along those lines. So I think that makes a lot of sense, either a formal declaration or something that happens that does impact our ability. Because in the past, we have just not done a very good disciplined job on it.
I support that idea. I think that during the several meetings we had on this, some of my struggle was the user's manual, and under what circumstances would it be appropriate or inappropriate. And language was added to help me understand that, for example, that the capital reserve would be part of the budgeting process, for example. That's very helpful for clarity for me. But anyway, I like the idea of passing it. I like the idea of, I don't know if that's a procedure or if that's an amendment that we do later. to the policy, but either way, it would be great to move forward and it would be great to get.
I'd like to ask Director Russ, since you're on the Budget and Finance Committee, also have been through all these discussions. What your feel is on what Director Fultz is suggesting is, and what you've heard from Jason also, kind of
Right.
collecting all of that. Because we haven't suggested motion in front
Motion,
of,
right.
but I'm hearing enough other suggestions of maybe we should be,
Maybe the 6 times the charm through the budget committee.
I hate to kick it back more, but this is, I don't know if this is the first time it's come in front of the board, but it's only if it's,
I think it's.
if it is the second time, and that's, but this is where it gets finally approved. This is where you're getting these kind of comments, then this is,
Yeah, I mean, I would love to pass it and then later on do an addendum, but it probably makes more sense to have an integrated document where we really
Okay.
thought it through.
okay,
So.
Okay.
I guess I would move it. Be sent back
okay.
and,
The understanding is that we're bringing it back with triggers.
with triggers, right, right,
Um,
more guidelines, triggers.
and I would request for whatever alterations that you're making to the policy, as we've seen it, redline it. Make it easier for us to, yeah, just look at the red lines then in it. So with that, and with that understanding, I do want to ask any comments from the public on this, because we're not going to take action on this item this evening. Seeing none, then I think, Jason, you have board's direction on this. Okay, good. Thank you, Sherry, for leading a good discussion here at the committee level and for bringing that to us now. This is what we should be doing as a board. This is the kind of stuff we should be discussing. These are good policies to come forward. Good. And if it takes one more round of it, so be it. Moving on then, the Del Rio Advisors contract extension. I think you have that one also, Sheree.
So this is an extension of the consultant services agreement with Del Rio Advisors, who are our municipal advisors. This would extend the existing agreement through December 31st, 2028. There are no changes to the scope of services or the fee structure. And what they do is they provide the district with long-range financial planning, debt management, and evaluation of financing structure options. Del Rio Advisors have not been billed or has not billed the district for any services under their current agreement. They will only bill when services are requested. And so this is just a continuation of our current relationship, not a new contract, just extending it. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, all right. This didn't come in front of the committee then, right?
No.
No, okay, all right, okay, then I can start with Director Foltz.
Yeah, I think we entered in this agreement with the understanding we'd be using them for a debt placement of some kind. That's still the intent, right?
The intent is that they will be coming before the board on the 4th of December.
Oh.
To present.
Oh, okay. Well, that's even more reasons, probably. Enter into the agreement,
Well,
we
they're-
got that teed up already. That's pretty key.
Well, the issue is that their contract technically ends at the end of this year. And they're gonna present this on the 4th. I would like their contract extended.
Well, maybe we should wait till after they present as part of the negotiation. I mean,
They have done a lot of work in good faith for us, so.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, I like to see results, but okay, thank you.
Director Russ.
I was gonna ask, both you, Sherry, and Jason, if you've actually spent time with them. I mean, how do you feel about working with them and the competency that we would be depending upon him for any kind of a debt placement.
I've worked with Ken before at my previous agency and been working with him here. I have every confidence in him.
Okay, we got to see a little bit of the preview of the presentation. I'm thoroughly impressed.
Good, wow.
Good.
Great, thank you.
Alina?
It's great to hear that everyone has, confidence in them, and I don't really have any questions on that. So.
Brian?
I guess my only question was what we think at the end of the day. So the fees will be proportionate to the amount of the financing, but it's billed hourly.
Well, it's fixed.
The-
Within
the-
ranges.
Yeah,
So there's an hourly component and then there's a lump sum based on the
based on the amount of.
on the amount of the loan. Gotcha.
Yeah, I had thought that if he was engaged in actually working with an underwriter, then it was, depending on whether it's a direct placement or a public placement, it was either 42,000 or
Yeah,
52,000.
And I don't want to spoil the fun of the fourth, but all of those things will be explained.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. I have no questions on this. So I would like to ask members of the public, any comments on this? I do see one online from Kenneth Geiker.
Oh, that's him.
Oh,
That's him.
okay.
That's the guy.
All right. I don't know if he's a member of our public, but certainly.
He may be able to answer one of the questions.
Okay. Kenneth?
Oh, yeah. Good evening. Sorry about that. I've been online this whole time and I was hoping somebody was going to zoom me in so I could listen and be part of the conversation. But anyway, I do appreciate the conversation. And yes, to be clear, I was hired 18 months ago to work on a particular transaction, and that obviously got delayed for multiple reasons. Questions at the board, questions regarding your CIP, the initiative that failed in November. Been to the board on multiple occasions, and we haven't been to the financing market yet, and we are planning to come back in December. I will be there along with the underwriter to make a full presentation as to what we've come up with thus far and seek permission from the board. So I'm just looking for an extension, 3-year extension, to continue to work with the district. I have not billed on an hourly basis. I am working contingent right now, but if this drags on, I will ultimately have to go hourly. But for right now, we'll need to do this work and enjoy working with both Jason and Sheree. Like I said, I had a relationship with Sheree at her previous employer, so I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Kenneth. Then I want to move that the board approve the extended engagement letter with Del Rio Advisors LLC, extending professional municipal advisory services through December 31st, 2028, and authorize the general manager to execute the extended engagement letter and incorporate it into the existing consulting services agreement dated June 6th, 2024.
Second.
Okay.
President Smalley,
Yes.
Vice President Lane,
Yes.
Director Foltz,
Yes.
Director Largay,
Yes.
Director Russ.
Yes.
Motion has passed.
Okay. Next item is the FEMA withdrawal funding for the Bennett and South Zone. And it's Jen presenting this one.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Hello.
Can you?
Okay, so this is about the Bennett and South Zone FEMA project. I've listed the number there for you, but we're recommending that we withdraw from this project. If this was damage that was caused by the CCU fires of 2020. There is a 90% federal share cost with 3.4 would be the reimbursable amount. We're seeking direction from the board in this matter. Because it looks like the district has completed all of the necessary work to restore the water to these areas. But of course, the scope shows that we were going to bury the lines. We have not buried the lines. And this is, you know, according to staff, we've met on it a couple of times, the decision to no longer pursue it is for a couple of different factors, but there's the environmental factor, you got construction feasibility and cost, overall return on our investment, and specifically how much the district would benefit from completing the project, with the available funds that we currently have and the staff time that would be required. So the decision to not pursue the south zone is based solely on financial considerations. The environmental impact of this project is minimal. Construction feasibility is high. Both the south and the Bennett zones are currently operational, so significantly reducing the urgency of completing the full scope of the pipeline burial at this. So we're asking for you guys to ask us any questions that you may have and seeking direction from the board.
Okay. I've walked some of these areas before, and the feasibility of trying to get heavy equipment in there would present significant environmental challenges. I can't say that it couldn't be done, but it would present a difficult environmental impact analysis if we were to do that. And what did it cost us to get this line back in service? Did I see $7,000? $7,500. And
FEMA should pay us for that.
well, that is a question that I did have. Is that reimbursable? Is it worth it to even go seek that?
I was not serious.
I would say.
I was.
I
Okay.
would say no.
Okay, all right. Well, with that, what questions, what questions do we have as a board? Dr. Ross, we'll start with you this time.
Okay, yeah, I did want to confirm the $7,500 number. As I recall, this was 700 feet of 4-inch, is that correct? I forget, 4-inch HDPE,
About that.
something like that.
Mhm.
So we were able to, I just assumed it was all burned out, or, and we were able to replace,
Yeah,
just bring some guys out there and,
we hired a contractor, Vandersteen Engineering, worked with the district in the past, and he basically did emergency work to lay the 4-inch above ground. to
above
restore the
ground,
water.
just laid it on the ground.
So it was relatively pretty quick and simple, and that's why I believe it's so cheap.
Okay. And I mean, that's an amazing price, obviously a lot better than 3.5 million or 3.6. Are you at all concerned that because it was done quickly, are we vulnerable? Maybe not just from fires, but from other things, you know, because these are, I don't know how they're held in place, you know.
Of course, there's vulnerability from the fires, so, future fires, but
Yeah.
the construction was, it was put together nicely, and these are pipes that are fused together, and he did a good job, staff was there with them, and like I said, we've done a lot of work with Vandersteen Engineering in the past, and it's done, really good work for us.
Wow, okay, no, that's, is there any downside with FEMA when we say we don't need, 3.2 million, or are they gonna say, wow, you guys are that good, or?
They're not gonna have any problem not paying us, but if you go back to them later on down the line and say, oh, we changed our minds. too
Then
bad.
forget it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but it won't be any ripple effects or, okay.
Nope.
So just
No,
that-
it happens where people put in for grant money through FEMA and then don't need certain aspects of that grant, so.
Okay. All right, yeah, thank you.
Alina?
Yeah, and it's always nice to protect our pipeline, but that costs, how many times can we rebuild this? So I think that this is definitely the right call, so, yeah.
Brian?
So yeah, this is quite remarkable. So I guess and we're good on free fall and
Yeah,
rodent.
based on the material of the pipe, that tree could literally bend it in half, we can pop it back.
Oh, amazing.
seen it
It's
happen
it's
before.
pretty thick.
Yeah.
Nice. Remarkable. That's very, very cool. The same solution in both locations? I'm familiar with Bennett, I'm less familiar with.
Yeah, they're really two separate issues.
That
now. They're-
zone is up on the map.
Yeah. It's South Sounds in Clear Creek, in Brookdale. Completely two different areas of our system. really two separate issues. Where Bennett's more of a construction feasibility and return investment. Where South is just really the high cost of
That's
actually doing
Bennett
it.
there.
Yeah. And so South got the overground HDPE pipe,
Yes,
and then Bennett, is it,
it's the same, it's the same material.
and it too is an overland
Mhm.
run pipe
Yeah,
instead of
yeah.
burial.
Of raw water where South is potable water.
Yep. Terrific. I have no questions.
Okay. Director Foltz?
Just a couple of questions. The 70, did I hear that right? 7,500.
Yeah, 7,500.
Is that for both South and Bennett?
Yes, that's for this entire project, which includes both.
Okay. So when we installed these pipes, if we're gonna leave them above ground, which I'm generally not in favor of, just as a matter of course, what did we do to make sure that we're prepped for the next fire? Because one of the things you really don't want to have happen is for your water, what is it, VOCs, I think. I'm not particularly
Yes.
familiar with it, but did we put anything in there to make sure that we can either remotely or manually, what have you, isolate anything that's above ground quickly and make sure that it does not contaminate anything in the event a fire starts?
It's same process. We can isolate it quickly remotely through SCADA. So the same thing through CZU. As far as with the Bennett line, it's a raw water line, so it has to come to our treatment plant first. So in the event of a fire and of it burning down, we would shut down the treatment plant, not produce any water. As far as the south system, there's always a possibility of VOCs after plastic pipes melting. So in that sense, we would work with the state and create a sampling plan like we did in our op 236, forget the exact location, but we would do extensive sampling in the south zone if that pipe did melt.
And just to clarify, Bob, I don't think it was the pipe fully melting. It was the heated pipe.
Right.
While it was
Yeah.
still intact and being able to transmit water
Right.
was causing volatilization inside the pipe into the water.
And
Then they were potentially bring contaminated water into the.
Yeah, and any potential of that happening at that point, we would issue a do not drink, do not use issue, not even a boil order, it would be a do not use order.
Right.
But-
Does
but-
that
but I-
answer your question?
Well, kind of, but
Okay.
I don't want to have to do that, right?
Exactly.
That's the issue for me. I understand about the raw water pipe, though I am still hopeful that there's a way of blocking that water from coming in, because if the pipe's heating up, the water coming in is bad. What's the cost of doing South Zone underground versus the Bennett?
Well,
Do we have
I
any
know that
idea?
south, it's on the, let me see, the attachment.
Yes, sorry, you know it better than I do.
I know that the south zone was the bigger chunk of it. Yeah, so Bennett was about 600,000 estimated. And South Zone was 1.6 million.
Okay, and so the South Zone though is feasible and all the rest of it, it could be constructed. Environmentally minimal impact. Is that what I said? I read, yeah. Why don't we not do Bennett and do South? I mean, if it's a 90% share, it's 1.6 million, we're looking at 160,000. I don't know, I mean, to me, potable water, we don't want above ground pipes.
think there's not a guarantee we'll get that 90% back. So there's some concern of investing $2 million into where, of course it's not perfect, but we're in water and investing that amount of money, we feel go to other projects be more beneficial.
Is there any way to be working with FEMA to make sure we're not on a 5-year payment here?
Well, I mean, we can withdraw or we can withdraw part of it, if that's what your question is, and then ask for an extension.
I'm just really uncomfortable with leaving. I mean, I know we have potable water pipe on top of ground in a number of places. Some of which is a metal. I don't know if that's a big issue or not. But I'm really uncomfortable with, in the wake of a disaster, just going back to that. I'm sorry. doesn't work for me very much.
Okay,
Does the SCADA system allow you to sectionalize? I mean, to Bob's point,
Yeah.
can you use SCADA and it
Right.
actually closes some gate valves? Can you stop flow or it's not, doesn't have that capability?
Not necessarily gate valves would be, we shut down boosters. And then, we would flush. There's the water that's already there, you just have to flush out, stop producing into that zone, stop feeding that zone. But as far as closing valves and isolating that
Okay.
for each zone, no, we don't have the capability.
All right. But if you're only shutting down booster pumps, you still might get some flow from
Yeah,
gravity.
Yeah, the
siphon.
gravity from the tank, that's where staff would issue the do not use order and then flush.
Huh. So there's no way to actually shut it off.
Not remotely. We'd have to go out there physically, close the valves and flush.
okay. If we don't withdraw, approve the request to withdraw, is it holding up other payments? Such as, is this part of this, 3.4 million, is that part of a bigger $8 million number and
No.
we're holding up other
The
funds?
3.4 is the entire project. The only reason we're bringing it at this point is because it's starting to move through the FEMA process now. Just like the other day, I think it got changed, and it's just moving. So as soon as it becomes obligated is when we can ask for a time extension or we can ask to withdraw anytime.
Right,
But we're getting to the point where we're running out of
Right.
time to make a decision.
right.
Question?
Let me-
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't realize that you were.
And I'll counter what Director Foltz said about burying, not burying. After seeing all of the evaluation that we did for the Peavine water line, I'm comfortable with now using the HDPE in these areas because of the difficulties of getting into these kind of areas to construct. And for the return on investment, and I think I should be, as a citizen, not only as a ratepayer, but as a citizen of the US, should be looking at those funds also. Does it make sense if we could replace it for $7,000 and it's going to cost us their share or our share is 1.6 million to do it? How many times would I have to replace it to make that ROI work out to? So I'm balancing those and saying, no, I'm still comfortable with the HDPE, and maybe we had a different thought when we submitted this 4 years ago, whenever it went in.
I mean, I think at the
And-
time it was an emergency and it was something that they felt they needed at the time, and then we got hit with a
Yes,
couple more
yes,
events.
yes.
So
And after seeing
priorities
all that we've done through the engineering evaluation for the CZU lines that burnt up and where we are now headed with Peavine, I'm okay with that. So,
And I'd like to clear one thing up, Vanderstein Engineering did the work on the Bennett line, not the South Zone. That was done in-house with staff and temporary staff.
oh, okay. So internal staff are out there dragging pipes around, putting pipes in place. And
Internal staff, and we brought back some old retired staff,
right,
that's
right,
temporary.
to
work.
get the line back in service. Okay. Okay. All right.
I do have a question after Brian too.
Okay, sure.
So I guess one of my questions has to do with if this stayed on the FEMA list, we would presumably proceed with the projects, spend $3.x million, and then seek reimbursement that could take Y years and maybe not come at all. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, from my perspective, the time value of money, the opportunity cost of having all that tied up in that way, the implications for what we're not doing of more urgent projects, I don't really understand. I feel like we should call good enough, and get on with the other long list of stuff we have to do.
Okay, Lean,
So it was the potable water line is available to do, not the raw water line, correct?
Potable water line is more constructional feasible.
So, and since we use potable water to fight fires, how does having this protected, burying it, in it help us with being able to fight a fire in the future?
It would help. I mean, to be honest, it would help, yeah. It would protect it. I mean, a buried line would be more protected.
And this is going to a source that would be, you know, on fire hydrants
Essentially.
in that area. That kind of gives me pause to think about burying that we could potentially fight fires in that area. But our system also isn't built to fight wildfires, so that's also a consideration as well.
Yeah.
So no systems are.
I don't know, I don't think any systems are built to
No.
fight wildfires.
On a public drinking water.
Right,
system.
not the public drinking water systems. The tanks aren't built to serve that, so.
Can I ask a quick question? How many customers are served by the South Line? Not that I want to use the formula.
Uh, Give me a minute, I can figure it out. I wanna say
I mean, just approximately, yeah.
50 to 75.
Okay, so it's significant.
Yeah, I'll get it more accurate.
Well, while he's looking that up, to your point, Vice President Lang, fire flows are usually based on 2 to 3 house fires,
Mm-hmm.
so not wildfires.
Yeah.
And can I ask another question about the interconnection of this south line to other lines?
Yeah.
So one of the issues in Paradise, for example, that fire is that once it got into a potable water line and part of their system, it basically destroyed the entire system, like immediately. How interconnected is this line to other lines?
Well. It's connected to our big steel zone, which is a large zone, but it's pretty. It's theoretical how far the damage would go. I mean.
Well, I mean, once the VOCs are in the system, they're in the system. So you would potentially be not just affecting these 50 to 75 customers, which from a customer service point of view isn't great, but you could potentially affect, if it's a big steel, man, that's a big
No,
zone.
I hear you. Yeah, I mean, that there is that potential, based by looking at, it's just a scenario of CZU. I see that as a low potential, not low probability, but I guess theoretically that could happen, yes.
I believe our fire is about every 40 years around here, right? So. I don't know, I'm conflicted.
Do you have another comment?
I do, yeah.
Okay,
if you
go
don't
ahead.
mind. I probably don't understand what's feasible in water systems. But I guess I keep coming back to this idea that, and maybe it's a study that you could do, is because a lot of folks, PG&E and other systems sectionalize their system. So you can really take out of service pieces of it. And I just wonder if we were to do a study, to Bob's point about cross-contamination or whatever, how much would it cost to remotely, in certain key places or where we have vulnerable pipelines, to say, we need to be able to push a button and close that line down so that it's not gonna contaminate or if it breaks open, we're not gonna lose a whole tank's worth of flow.
I would say the cost would be relatively high, just based on how much SCADA costs, as we all know. It would be a lot of upgrades to our SCADA system and.
Yeah, what's the typical cost per point?
Scotty?
Well, one vendor would be like $20,000 and another vendor is closer to 100.
All right, so.
But as far as the remote valving, that was attempted on the 5 Mile pipeline years ago when it was installed. And there was very little success using radio, trying to transmit from a good location, kind of like line of sight. They cut down a tree because they thought they could see the Brookdale Lodge, and there was 3 valves there, and it never worked. So that's an issue.
A couple things on the remote valving is, even if you remote valve it, you have to have eyes on it, because you cannot trust a valve to hold. So you gotta have somebody on the field anyway, so that's why most of the time you just do manual valves.
And, you know, most of our on-call operators that live in, they all do live really close, and, you know, by the time it takes for someone to get on a computer, sign up, sign in and do all that work, it might be the same amount of time just getting out there and physically closing the valve.
Gotcha.
To Director Fultz's question about the interconnection. What feeds the big steel zone? So how are they connected?
So, Big Steel, Lion feeds Big Steel Zone, Big Steel feeds the South Zone.
And if you go the other way, I think Brookdale.
Yeah, and Brickdale tank.
PRV
pushing
machine,
opposite way.
Booster,
Yeah, South Zone is a booster pulling out of.
so
the
we
big
could
center.
technically shut the booster off.
Yeah, that's what I would, yeah, we would shut the booster off, isolate the valves and flush, order, do not drink order.
So, I want to make a suggestion. Instead of us trying to figure out the operational aspects of this tonight, I'd like staff to go back and think about, you know, the general question that I'm hearing being asked here is there a better way that we should be separating our systems, isolating, and just think about that to come back to us at some point to then say, you know, ballpark, here's what we need to be looking at. And we don't know where the next fire would be. So we can't tell you, well, go protect this zone or this line or this particular tank. It's kind of more the global for the system, I would think. But go take that as a task then, and then maybe surface it at some point later. Yeah.
Well, you know, when we're recovering from a disaster, I tend to like to do better than what was there before, right? So any above ground pipeline to me is, first of all, immediately vulnerable for a lot of reasons, not just fire, but there are other sort of human caused things that can happen as well. And when it comes to potable water, that's where I draw the line. So I'm uncomfortable moving forward in this, given where we are today. Others, that's just my opinion.
Right.
And I'm also wondering is, gee, could we get some FEMA money if we say, hey, we're not going to do 1.6 million, but we're going to do this to, like, you know, make it so that it's not going to contaminate the rest of our system. Would we get money for that? Maybe there's a way to look at that.
Change of scope.
Change in scope.
We can do a reduced scope of work.
Yeah. And change the scopes significantly enough.
But I'm still of the opinion that potable water needs to be buried. So,
okay. Okay.
And Director Fultz, to answer your question, there are 54 connections in the south.
54. Okay. So, yeah, it's
hard to justify that.
Well, I mean, this actually would be an interesting trial for the formula that you know, we've been sort of had been working on.
Right.
But and also, what would how would you get people back in water if something like that happened? And the risk of contamination and big steel and all the rest of it.
So if there is the chance of repurposing this money that makes more financial or fiscal sense for the system, rather than trying to spend 1.6 million to offset $7,000 of replacement by improving the system. I don't know if it would apply to the South Zone, and I'd say for now, table this and leave it in the queue and leave it with our FEMA contact person to begin that discussion down that line. At the same time, having staff begin to scratch their heads for, hey, could we do something different?
Yeah, obviously I want a marinated line down there, but that's the ultimate thing to want. But as a direction from the board to look at doing a reduced scope of work and just burying the south pipeline.
I'm not in favor of that. I'm in favor of the looking at either separating, isolating, or is there a better way in the event of fire disaster to shut systems down? I think that's what I'm hearing from you, Director Russ.
Yeah, it's a,
Well, there's a general case and there's a specific case.
Right.
So the general case, I think, is something that could be put into the hopper for a longer term setting.
Mhm.
My concern is specifically around if we're going to go to our community and say, we're recovering from the fire, an above ground pipe, we replace with an above ground pipe, but we're not making it any better for that particular piece of pipe, then I think we're maybe not doing
Right.
the right thing.
Yeah. And
I would maybe ask or add some effort. I know that you've teased us that the engineering committee is going to present, you know, the prioritization process for all of the CIP. And it occurs to me, whatever decision matrix that you're using applied to that really should be applied to these FEMA projects, and maybe they are already.
They're working on the grant portion and the FEMA portion, and I can let Garrett speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the screen right now. So the
Okay.
PZU South pipeline is located at the top left quadrant of the graph. The Bennett Spring pipe burial is located in the bottom left quadrant of the graph.
And what are the axes? I can't make them
So the
out.
axes are the financial impact on the Y and the priority impact on the X. And so the ideal location for projects is in the bottom right quadrant. Those would be high priority impact at a low financial impact.
Yes, so for instance, to Bob's point is the fact that it's showing up at top left, does it mean that it's got very little weight for failure and VOCs being contaminated in the water, right? I mean,
It's a score that we put together in the engineering committee. This was presented at the October 15th engineering committee. It's available on our website and it includes the formulas
okay.
if you're interested. So
Yeah.
here's the financial impact, estimated cost, minus maintenance savings, minus operational savings.
and it's not specific to what you were drilling into, the VOC impacts and the rest of it. It's more of it, the y-axis is the cost,
Exactly.
yeah, the other one is the overall importance to the district of it. And what that's telling me is both of those are on the low importance end of it, one being expensive, the other one being not as expensive.
Currently, we're in water in both of those locations, so we're functioning.
Yeah.
So
they
for that reason,
score lower.
they scored lower.
on
Now,
that
the policy hasn't been adopted by the board at this
Right,
time,
Right. But
and we're
that's,
still working through the formulas.
Yeah.
And how we want them to be
Mhm.
used and the coefficients on different factors.
okay.
So this is subject to change.
Yeah, no, and that's good. I did want to interject something, and that is, at least the original proposal was that FEMA things would be moved into a higher priority. By definition, recovery, and a higher priority. We didn't get to the point of whether you recover like for like or better.
Yeah.
But typically FEMA's approach, at least historically, has been that when you are recovering, they will help pay for bringing it to current standards. And, you know, our former GM liked to use the example of the 2-inch pipe serving customers hanging from a tree limb by a rope. And they got to over a creek and they got to replace that with a nice pipe under the creek. So to me, the FEMA stuff recovery is in a slightly different bucket.
So I don't know that we have a consensus on what the board is asking to do at this point.
We'll do some more research and bring it back.
Oh, okay, but it sounds to me like we're agreeing to table this for right now.
Jesse.
Make one more comment regarding the Bennett project.
Yeah.
I believe the proposed scope of work doesn't include burying the whole pipeline. In the sections that aren't buried, it's because of the construction feasibility. So, you know, I think we're all in agreement with the Bennett project. It's really the South project. So I just want to make that clear with the Bennett.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So, I just saw some of the images of the, I believe what was the South project in the slide deck. Maybe that was the Bennett project, but it looked like, is it that hard to bury? Does it need to be buried to a certain standard or spec, or it almost looks like it could be hand shovel work and just put it underground.
As far as the south zone, I mean, yeah, it needs to follow certain specs, but it is feasible to bury the south zone.
Is it very expensive? I mean, I guess are there tree roots to cut through, or is it really gonna be $1.5 million?
So for the south, right now, you just have a above grade pipe that's just going cross country. If we were to bury the line, we would put it in the right of way of the road and follow the road as much as we could. And then we'd also be installing hydrants. We'd also be installing service connections for the houses.
Repaving the road.
Repaving the road. And then there is a section of the south zone where the roads don't connect. And so we would have to get an easement through private property for that section. So that's some of the challenges of the south zone.
Gotcha.
I'll also note before the CZU fire, there was a section between the tank and the customers where it really a lot of basically drop downhill, and that was above ground before the fire as well.
I see. Okay, that's a much more complicated project than the choices between those two different projects are fairly substantial, and it's hard for me to fully understand the pros and cons. And then my other question, Jen, was you indicated FEMA's reached out. I imagine that signifies that they are expecting a next step, and so there's it sounded like time was of the essence in some regard to making a decision of whether to continue or
Yeah, we've
off
been
ramp.
getting requests for information, which we've been responding to that, to the best of our ability, being that this project has kind of been at a standstill for quite some time. So that's why I kind of wanted to bring it to the board and figure out what we want to do. Because we're gonna have to make a decision here before long.
Gotcha.
But it, to me, doesn't sound like we need to make the decision tonight. It's not imminent
We've got some time.
within the next week or so. Alina, you have another question?
You said we would be installing fire hydrants. Are there fire hydrants currently in the area, or would these be new fire hydrants?
I believe there's wharf hydrants.
Yeah, there's definitely wharf hydrants.
But it's being fed off a 2-inch line.
Yeah, so there's no steamer. The steamer hydrants are fed from a 6-inch or a larger main.
Okay, so would we be getting actual, like you did on West Park, those larger fire hydrants?
We would start, so you can't access the south zone from Brookdale. You actually have to go Alba. You go all the way up Alba, just before the red schoolhouse, to Western. And that's where the tank site is, and that's where the pipe has been replaced above ground. And then the cross-country portion where there's no road, that's where you actually get into Brookdale off of what was it, High Street?
Okay.
But it sounds like what did you phrase it as? Jason, go back and do some further research or yes.
Yes, yeah, I like.
Because it doesn't sound like there's
Including any type of fire, like, prevention. I think that's what's really key for me in deciding this, protecting us that way.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay.
One comment. If it weren't for FEMA being so extended on their payment, I don't think this would be an issue. We'd do it. So the question here is, and by the way, we're not going to get an opportunity to have somebody help pay for this. So that's why I wanted to focus on, hey, can we start getting paid by these guys? Because if we can start getting paid, it would be really great to be able to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Okay. Then the understanding that we're not going to take any action on this tonight, does any member of the public wish to offer comment on it also? Seeing none, we will move on then. What's the next?
The Highland Tank
The Highland Tank contract.
Yes, so the matter before the board is the Highland Tank Construction Support Contract with Mercedes Miller Engineering. So we've recently entered into a contract with Corcus Construction to construct the Highland Tank for the district. CD Miller Engineering is the engineer of record that designed the tank. And this contract is for construction phase support for the construction of Highland Tank. So during construction, the engineer of record is expected to review submittals and approve submittals or provide comments back on why the submittal is inadequate per the specification. If there's any requests for information about the plans and specifications that are the contractor feels is unclear and they need additional information, that's something that typically the engineer of record would provide. There are certain milestones that the engineer of record comes out and makes site observations, writes letters to make sure that the construction is in conformance with the design intent. And then at the end of the whole process, the engineer of record typically writes a letter saying that the construction is in general conformance with the engineering plans and specifications. So initially, when we put the engineering design out to bid, it included bidding phase support and construction phase support. We only got 2 responses back for the engineering design, and the fees were a lot larger than we were hoping. So when we went back to the 2 firms that we got responses from, we asked them to take out the bidding support, take out the construction support, sharpen your pencil on the design. It's the same tank, 120,000 gallon bolted steel tank at 5 locations. There should be some cost savings there. And so we gave them another chance to come back with a better number. And it saved the district over $200,000 in the not to exceed amount that we ended up going with. Now we did take out the bidding phase support and the construction phase support. District staff was able to get the Highland Tank plans bid without assistance from Miss Miller Engineering and evaluate the bids and award the construction contract. But having the engineer of record part of the construction process is important also from a liability standpoint. If they're not involved in reviewing the submittals and going to the site to make observations, they could say, look, the reason things didn't work out right is because I wasn't involved in the construction phase. I mean, the district is a unique position that we are allowed to self-inspect, similar to a city or the county. So we do have that option, but I believe it's in the district's best interest to retain the engineer of record to provide this support and to make sure that ultimately the Highland Tank is constructed properly. And I also wanted to apologize. There is a typo in the recommended motion that indicates the title of interim general manager, and it should be general manager. Apologize for that. And with that, I can take any questions I have.
Okay. All right. Brian?
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
This seems well reasoned and straightforward to me.
All right. Alina?
Yeah, I mean, I think you answered my main question about is why our in-house construction inspector they can't really handle this. It seems like.
So our in-house construction inspector will be performing the daily site observations and making a log of all personnel, all equipment, contractors' activities. The engineer of record, most of his duties will be performed in his office via email. We do have weekly progress meetings that the engineer of record participates in, and we've requested that they participate via teleconference call to keep the costs down, so we don't have to pay for their drive time from Santa Cruz to Boulder Creek every week. And we've also, initially there's in the attachment is the professional service agreement from a CD Miller Engineering. It's in Appendix A. And so they go through all the hours that they think it's going to take to review submittals and by which personnel is going to have to do it. And they come up with a total amount of money that they think might cost the district to perform the construction phase services. And initially they were asking for around $37,000. We negotiated with Miss Miller Engineering and made certain allowances, like allowing them to participate via teleconference call and to reduce their efforts and got the price down to the $25,000 I think it's $25,570
70.
Number. Now that's a not to exceed amount. They're gonna bill us hourly for the time they actually spend, and staff will do our best to minimize their involvement as much as possible. And
Thank you.
Director Russ?
Remind me, the original contract to Massetti Miller, was it around $250,000?
so initially their bid was in the $700,000 range. And then they sharpened their pencil and got it down to around 640. There was an issue with the subcontractors. So initially the geotechnical engineer and the surveyor was to be a subcontractor of the engineer of record. District staff took on the responsibility of directly contracting with the surveyor and directly contracting with the geotechnical engineer, which saved the district around $15,000 and took that out of their scope of work. So right now their contract is for $550,000 approximately.
Okay, so the 25,000 is around 5%.
Yeah, it's
Under-
it's 2.5% of the construction cost of the tank.
Okay, all right. And so would we expect then that that would probably be the case for each of the tanks, right?
Correct.
Probably, right? For engineer of record, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No, that's it. That seems reasonable to me. Thank you.
Okay. Director Foltz?
Yeah, this is a separate agreement, not an extension of the original one.
Correct. So staff feels that with professional services agreements, there isn't a deliverable attached to their fee estimate. And this kind of leaves the district vulnerable to cost overruns. When we have a construction contract, they give us a bid of $10,000 for a hydrant. They put in a hydrant, they get $10,000. When we are dealing with engineers, they bill us hourly and say, I think I can do it for $10,000. And if they bill hourly and are less than 10,000, then they only get paid for the hours that they bill. What inevitably happens is they reach the not to exceed amount and then they request more money. So it's really in the district's best interest to limit the not to exceed amount from the start and to stay on top of them to produce as much as they can for as little amount of fee as we can negotiate.
Yeah, I get that. I think I was looking at the $30,000 limit, but given that we had done business with them before, I kind of like the follow-on contracts that come back, even if they are under 30,000.
I would keep the money separate so that they can't take this $25,000 and use it for something else. They can only use it for Highland construction phase support, and hopefully they won't spend it all.
Yeah, I get that, and I'm just saying that under current board policy, this didn't need to come to the board.
Correct.
Except for the fact that it's a follow-on contract to somebody that we did a big deal with. And in that situation, it's a little bit of a gray area for me, and I appreciate you bringing it to the board so that we could have visibility.
Yeah, we discussed it at a staff level. That was the best course.
Yeah, no, but I want to make sure, everybody knew that, it's under 30,000 didn't really need to come here, but appreciate that you did.
The question that I had previously, which you've already addressed, Garrett, was why wasn't this part of the original contract? You've addressed that, and I appreciate what you've done to negotiate with them to get to a more favorable price to the district, providing the services that you see we need. As a former construction manager, I wouldn't advise my clients to do anything other than what you already put in. Hire the engineer that's done the plans to be the engineer of record. That you've got to have that in my mind. So I firmly support what you're doing here. This, yes. So, okay. Any comments from members of the public on this? Then I will move that the board directs the general manager to execute a professional services agreement with Massetti Miller Engineering for construction support for the Highland tank in an amount not to exceed $25,570 and authorize the general manager to execute non-substantive modifications as necessary.
Second.
We keep tying. You take it this time, you take it this time.
And I don't know if this will be the last time I say this, but I have to say it every time we vote on something regarding Highland, which is I live right across the street from it. But because it serves the entire pressure zone, I'm not confronted with a conflict of interest, et cetera.
All right. Yes.
President Smollett,
Yes.
Vice President Lane,
Yes.
Director Foltz,
Yes.
Director Day,
Yes.
and Director Russ.
Yes.
Motion has passed.
Okay, moving on then to the FEMA grant update. Jen?
Yeah. That's me again, and instead of reading the memo, you know that I'm providing you guys a FEMA update, and I know that I provided it to you in summary form as an attachment. I also have a PowerPoint, which I've also made a couple edits to since I posted it. So my thought process, if you guys agree, is I'll just go through the PowerPoint, any question you guys have, we can answer as we go. Does that work?
Yes, please.
Well, as you guys can see, we've got several declarations that we're a part of currently. We've got 5 total, 5 of them or 4 of them are winter storms, and then 1, of course, we know with the PTU fires. So I put the numbers here for you. The FEMA event number is what that is, the 4301 and the 4308. Hoping that'll make some of this a little bit easier as we go. The public assistance, so the FEMA, it provides us through the public assistance program, subject to a cost of share. The federal share is usually no less than 75%, as you can see from some of the earlier documents I shared, it was, you know, something go as high as 90. At a minimum, the district's out of pocket would be somewhere between, I would say, 6.8 and 10%. I just pulled this off of the FEMA website, so you can see what this process is like.
Is this a board game?
Yes, this is Monopoly.
It's
or
like Monopoly or-
ladder
I want to be the symbol.
But
It's a straightforward process.
yeah, it's very,
That's simple.
very confusing and very time consuming. As you can see in a lot of our projects, we're still stuck in scoping and costs. We've had a few that were recently obligated. And come to find out, we actually got the funds within 2 weeks' time, which was astonishing.
So what's obligated?
Obligated means that the funds have been obligated for our project. That means they have the money set aside, so whenever we.
Okay, so there is a set aside then.
Exactly.
You're agreeing.
That means that they've agreed to pay it.
Okay,
Exactly right.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Where does the Bennett and South show up here?
Yeah, they don't show up on this one.
Oh,
Oh, in the transition, where are we at?
well, I mean, they've got to be there somewhere, right?
It just changed.
Somewhere
So I
number
think
5
we're
or 6 out of
in-
27.
Let me see, I think I have it on another one.
I mean, I'm just curious for
We'll come back
reference
to that.
since we were talking about it.
So, yeah, like you had pointed out, we had closed out a lot of projects. We closed out about, I don't know, 28 out of 38, so we've got 10 left. Those are our active FEMA projects. Everything else we've completed, you know, pretty much the lion's share. So as you can see, we still have open projects from each event. So until we close all of the projects from a particular event. So for example, 4301 has 6 different projects. Until we close all of those, we're not gonna get the lion's share. But as on some of these smaller projects, they're closing out. So anything less than $1 million, they're closing and paying out right away. So anything over $1 million is where we're getting stuck in some of these larger review processes. And as we found out, some of these, as I get to the last slide, you'll see why we don't want to do some of the things that we've been doing. Management costs. So these were one thing that we had several discussions on, if we were going to get management costs. When we were working with Aptum before, they were not following through on the Cat Z funds or the management costs. And so what I had found out is that we can't actually request them until all of the projects in that event have been obligated. So therefore, when you see that 4558 and 4699 are the only 2 that we've received management costs from, that's because those are the only 2 that are considered closed. Fully, we've completed it. I just put some boring knowledge there for you from the FEMA about management costs and what they're for. Trench washout. So I know we had some questions on this one. There's a lot of confusion with this one because we got a FEMA denial in July. And in the FEMA denial, it said the reason they were denying was because we should have filed with the Federal Highway Administration, the Federal Highway and Roadway Administration, I believe. So I said, okay, well, how much time do I have to appeal? You got 30 days. Okay, so I filed my FEMA appeal on the 18th, just cut it by a couple days. Then I filed another individual application with FHWA, and they denied me 3 days later, saying that because I was not the county of Santa Cruz, that I could not apply. So then I called the county of Santa Cruz, and I've been working closely with them, and they are helping me file our application and our time extension through the FHWA. And we're hoping we'll find out more by the end of the year. So I've got two avenues. Either we will get our appeal for the 996-109, or we'll get it through FHWA. But those were the only two options I had, and I went with both of them, and we'll just see which one pans out at this
Are
point.
you fairly confident that we'll get one or the other, or
Well,
what's the
on the
probability you
10th
won't get
of
any?
on the 10th of October, we received a letter from Cal OES that they sent to us and to FEMA saying that they were approving our grant, or our appeal, I should
Ah.
say. So we have the backing of the state at this point, so now we're just waiting for FEMA. So we'll see. I would hope that they'll have it done by the end of this year, but I can't make any guarantees. So as you'll see on one of my other graphs, I'm thinking if we get it, it'll be probably after the 1st of January sometime. Lion treatment plant, this is one that we just submitted. Garrett had submitted a reduced scope of work on. As we know, this is the Lion slide, and it was a big project where at one point they had it at 6.2 million, and our cost share, or the federal's cost share, would be much higher than that. But now with the reduced cost of scope, we're thinking it'll be about half. And so you had a question about my 2026 and 2030 numbers I had. I took those out because it's just too hard at this point in time for me to accurately calculate that, because I don't know what I don't know. This could get reduced to 2 million for all I know, and then we're going to be off. And so until I get that scope of work, you know, approved, it's kind of hard to say what that's going to end up being.
And I have so little experience with how the FEMA process works. But if you go through your Candyland game, right? And we've, give them everything that they want. How much work do we have to do to get it obligated so that we know, oh, they will pay us? It might take some time, right? I mean, because that seems like that's kind of key in us deciding on these things.
So in phase 5 is when we finally become obligated.
Phase 5, okay.
Right now, I don't even know, where are we at on this? We're at scope and cost development, so we've got a ways to go on this one. And right now it's stuck there because they're reviewing our scope, our reduced scope of work that we've submitted.
I guess what I don't understand is how much work do we have to do, the staff have to do, to get it to the point where it's at least we'll get a decision on the obligated or not?
Lots.
Lots. I mean, like.
Yeah, I mean,
for a $6 million or
we
$9
have a
million.
reduced scope of work, right? We can't get that approved until FEMA approves it. Once you've got that, you got geotechnical studies and all of those, you got scope and cost development, and then finally at some point you get to obligated, so that we've got a ways to go.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a handle on, let's say for a $6 or $9 million Lions project, would we expect to have to spend 1% or 10% of our own money before we really get clarity on what they're going to do? I'm just trying to get an idea of what's our investment before we kind of know how it's going to settle out. Any ideas? Yeah.
I don't know. That's hard to say. It really is.
Then in terms of staff involvement or staff hours, is it 10 hours to submit one of these? No. Is it 500 hours?
No.
Okay, so somewhere, what's that?
Lots.
It's somewhere between those two numbers, right? So think about that, come back to this, and just, it's on the order of, a total of 80 staff hours is what I think Director Russ is getting to get some kind of a sense of how much staff effort and time are we putting into these?
Yeah, that will do staff hours, and then if we have to do outside work like geotechnical,
Right.
how much does that add? And maybe we can use the 28 that have closed to just
And
see.
that's why we haven't done the geotechnical, because we're waiting for the scope of work to be approved before we spend the money.
Okay.
So we're kind of,
Okay.
yeah, we're at a
Right.
point where we're at.
So what does it take
Okay.
then, as far as our level of effort,
Mhm.
time or money, to get to the obligated? I think is where you're,
That's where I'm
to
headed.
get to the obligated. Give us
We're
some sense
investing
of-
in it. We're sort of throwing the dice.
Yeah,
Right,
And
right.
we're willing to put a bet down, but what's our payoff if we do,
well, and some of these smaller projects, like I said, anything under 1 million, right, you can usually get it done pretty timely and you're gonna get your money right away. But these, as you can see, of the 10 projects that are
Right.
still open, majority of those are the larger projects. They're over 1 million.
Yeah,
Right.
it does sort of argue that for Bennett and South, we maybe should have. Right, okay, sounds like you've already taken.
Yeah,
that
we
as a
should have
lesson.
separated it.
Separated them. Yeah.
What I noticed, there's a theme that, we had 6 projects, 5 of them were small and 1 was giant. And then all the little ones get done and then the giant one just kind of gets stuck. And so I've had to literally call and pry and push on every single
Mhm.
project and be like, why is this not moving?
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't moved since March. It hasn't moved since April. And it's like, they were just gonna probably just let them sit there until somebody
Okay.
called them on it.
Because depending upon what that number is, both staff and then extra money we have to just spend for outside folks, it would kind of help us evaluate the Bennett and South. What do we do with that now that they're asking about it?
Yeah.
Because if our return is 20-1 or 50-1, well,
And-
maybe
and-
we just plow ahead. I don't know.
And we're not looking for, I don't think you're looking for precision here.
No,
We're
no,
looking
just-
for a bounce. And that's why I use
Right, 10 to
frequently-
500. Yeah. So,
Exactly,
yeah.
10 to 500.
yeah, it's a
I
big
mean,
range.
such a large range that people laugh at both ends of it. Good, that's the answer. I want the reaction of, no, it's not here, no, it's not here. Okay, it's somewhere between.
Somewhere in the
Help
middle.
us refine that. It's on the order of about 80 to 120 to that kind of, that's what we're.
Like this
Give us-
Lions
give
Flag
us-
project in particular is one that we've reworked a couple of
Right.
times, Garrett can
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, the
Just give
line
us-
side is 2017 damage.
Right, but just give us a sense of.
$500.
Yeah, to get to these numbers.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is great, Jen. It's
Thanks.
really glad that you're on top of it.
I'm working on it.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's sort of the process that you're approaching it with, and then how do we evaluate?
Right.
Mhm.
I mean,
So,
Yeah.
But why don't we let her, she has more to present
Okay.
to us, I think.
yep.
Yes, I do.
So
Okay.
go ahead
So
with,
this is the Altavia project, 744979. It's pending our initial project development as of November 23rd. Federal share of 90% at 533. The next step will be the FEMA scope and cost review. And as far as I know, I think we're ready to go on this project as soon as we're ready, as soon as it gets obligated.
Sorry, how is this different from the work we've done in Altavia already?
Altavia, I'll get to the last slide. There's a bunch of different little projects that were within that one. Same with Lion, Bennett. So there was a lot of like piggybacking of separate project numbers for the same thing. So you'll see Bennett like 3 or 4 times. You'll see Altavia a couple of times, but they have separate project numbers. So when we're going to do our backup of all of our finance documents, that's why we have individual PO or PWs and different things like that, so we can keep it all straight.
Well, but
there's more than one.
we've already put pipe in Altavia.
right,
Mhm.
I thought we did.
Yeah, so I can speak a little bit to that. So Altavia was located on the ridge. And I believe it melted and CZU fire, and we put up a temporary line on the side of the road that was just kind of above grade to get people back in water. And then we actually put in the permanent pipe, a ductile iron pipe under the road.
Mhm.
And so, the work is done.
But
So
there's
I'm really
more,
confused, I'm sorry.
same here, there's more to do or there's not more to do.
What is?
Well,
what
this is the FEMA scope. So we're talking about the FEMA process. Their next step is the scope and cost review.
But are we putting more pipe in the
No.
ground?
We're not.
We would
This
just
is-
simply be
Oh, so
refunded
This
for
is
what
how
we.
to be obligated. This is
oh.
how we can become obligated to get the money we already spent.
Okay, so we did the work before we got obligated.
Mhm.
Is that what we want to do?
That's not what we wanna do, but people, I mean,
It's
That-
been done.
People were.
That
Yeah.
seems,
The work had to get done
Risky,
anyway.
yeah, I
well,
don't,
but no, I mean,
Yeah.
we are and we aren't in some ways, because this doesn't help us understand about the process.
yes,
So I think
Yes.
what we ought to do is maybe have a little list of things that we cover later, but to me, the process for us is, when do we kick off the project?
And that makes it hard to kind of figure out, because if you don't know when these projects will become obligated, how are you supposed to plan for the future?
Yeah, I
Right.
get
You know what I
that,
mean?
I get that.
but I think it's only been in the last 4 or 5 months that we as a district have gotten this level of insight.
Yeah,
And it's
apparently
because,
so,
it's
yeah,
because you've been diving into it so much.
Yeah.
When we had Aptum here,
Well, they-
we would have never had this kind of a discussion. So
They were not,
kudos to, surfacing this kind of stuff to say,
no value.
oh, we got to get obligated first.
Mhm.
And that could be a decision point for us
Because
then
you
as a
can
board,
FEMA accountable for that money.
Right.
But until then, you can't.
Right.
So.
but a decision point for us on the board, when we hear often, oh, well, this is a FEMA reimbursable project. Oh, okay, great. But what stage are we at with that?
Mhm.
And how long does it take us to get obligated? How, if we do the
Well,
work?
and this Altavia project was from 2017, like Garrett said, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and here we
So
are.
we did the work.
No.
CPU.
Yeah, 2020.
Still, we're looking at
But
almost
but
5
it's been years
Yeah.
since the work has been completed.
And we're still not
But
obligated.
I think part of it is the fact that we have not had somebody doggedly going after this money.
Mhm.
We've had a consultant on board that was
No value.
that was very laissez-faire about it, or not really. And now we've got it's giving us insight into the process.
That's very helpful. It was helpful
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
One of
So-
the,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna add that, we're gonna hear in December, I guess, from the financial consultant and the underwriter for a possible debt, floating some debt. And yet also key in our financial projections are what is the likely flow of FEMA money? And the debt proceeds matching that up, and then the
Yeah,
prioritization on the engineering side.
Right.
Of what are we gonna do when?
Right.
And so that's why we're asking these sort of process questions, is to understand the process and what's the likelihood of us getting the funds and how long does it take? And
Mhm.
I don't know.
I wish I had a crystal
Yeah.
ball and I could give everybody like an answer,
Right.
but every project is different.
So
Really is.
why don't we let Jen
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
continue with the presentation?
Okay.
So you're
Um,
approaching 9 PM.
Okay.
Yes.
No.
Bennett Spring, Bennett Spring and
Okay.
South Zone, this is the one we were talking about earlier. If you guys wanted to withdraw from it, so we're past that. Let's see, water system repairs, we've got this is pending large project reviews, is one of the big ones I was telling you about. It just moved into that on the 14th of October, got a federal cost share of 90% at 1.8. So far I believe it's Blackstone, Lion, Big Steel, and a couple of the other things on there have been completed, but so far we still got the Eckley Pumping Station and Harmon Street. And according to the CIP, it looks like we're hoping to have those completed sometime between 28 and 30. I think Eckley was 2028 maybe.
Yeah, so based on the amount of debt we're allowed to take on, certain projects had to be moved into future years.
Okay, so is that Eckley and Harmon Street holding up all of the rest of the funds
yes.
Yes.
in that project? So then I think we have a decision point as a board
Mhm.
on that one. Bring that back to us. Do we want to continue going ahead with the Eckley pumping? Because to me, it seems like that has been on in a, are we going to or not going to? And the funding, do we pull that out and resubmit for it later? I don't know, but I think that if it's holding up us getting payment on that,
Mhm.
let's talk about that.
And Harmon Street, I believe, is another one that we could do right away. if
Right,
we want.
let's talk about that at a future meeting then, to see if we can get some of this
Moving.
pending payments going.
Without putting too fine a point on it, but this may be another category for why you tap into the capital reserve.
Mhm.
Right, if in fact we can spend, I don't know what the numbers are here, but a pump station and the pipe, I mean, $1 million,
Mhm.
something like that.
Right.
That might be a reason to do it with but again, assuming we can get paid somewhat less than 5 years. I mean, that's the thing, but there's a reason to do it. And that might be another one of the triggers.
Yeah.
Which of course we won't do till it becomes what?
Obligated.
Right? Okay.
Well, not necessarily. If we think that the return is there on it to go spend our money now, and we're very likely to get that, then, but it's something that the board needs to have more information brought to us to make these kind of decisions and give that kind of input, similar to what you've just done
Mhm.
on Ben's and
Well, I know you had a
Southside.
question about how it was connected to the big basin. I believe there's.
Yeah, but I don't wanna, I don't wanna belabor this for another half hour on this particular project.
No, but
to
this is
figure
one
out
we'll
that.
have to make a decision
But
on.
this is one that we should be making a decision on,
Mhm.
so.
Yep.
Go do more research, general manager,
We have,
bring this back to us then.
we have the ability to change how we group projects too and submit to FEMA.
Mhm.
So I think that's something we could be thinking about too,
Yep.
about how we
Yep.
we group this, so we get
How do
paid
we-
out faster.
How do we free up funds that?
Yeah.
Projects that we've completed,
Just for reference, if those 4 tanks were broken into 4 FEMA projects, would they have all been then?
They would have been paid as soon as they were completed.
That's why I'm shaking my head here, is that whoever made the decision to put these things into the categories they did.
Right.
Whoa.
Right, they didn't understand a
Um,
key part of the process.
but we can't change that
Mhm.
now. We can change the way we're doing it in the
Moving
future.
forward, yeah.
And having the knowledge that
Mhm.
the Jen's bringing to us, I think will help us make different decisions in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
The other one that we're talking
let's-
about. the
let's
$8
continue
million
with the
one that you guys
presentation.
are all concerned with.
Yes.
That one's got P-Vine included. It's got
Where's
5
Fred?
Mile included. Looks like P-Vine would probably be the or the first one to maybe be
Right.
completed.
Yeah.
We're hoping to complete the others by 2030.
And,
This again is in large project review since October 14th.
and that is work that we have not started yet, as far as any, putting together bid packages or the rest of that for contractors. That's one that I want to talk about. Do we break that up into the separate pieces? Get P-Vine out there by itself? But again, I don't want to talk about that tonight, but I want that brought back to the board as a significant discussion.
Okay, so pending large project review, this is another one. This is just the title of a multiple main and pipeline damages. It was Brookside Drive, Stewart Street and Huckleberry Island main breaks, which we're all familiar with. 1.6 at a 75% share. The only part of this that's been completed so far is Brookside. And so once this project becomes obligated, we can ask for a time extension. But this is one of those ones that we'll have to discuss later as well, because we've got an issue with Huckleberry. So that's something we'll have to talk about more later. Bennett and Bull Pipelines, this is the one I was talking to you about, where we received the notice of payment on October 14th for the $303,000. And we got paid in both state and federal by the 27th. So that was a 2-week turnaround.
Wow.
I can't say that everyone will be like that, but we got lucky. Hazard mitigation grant, there's a couple of them. We got the wildfire incident, local hazard mitigation plan, which we're closing. That's where we got the local hazard mitigation plan approved through FEMA. So we were going to do our last report in December, and that will be closed. The COVID-19, that's the Bennett Lompico pipeline. We have a federal share of 317. We're only about 10% there, so we've got a ways to go on this project. Then we've got the Department of Water Resources, you got your small community, which was the Brackenbury and Forest Springs. We did receive 1.2 million, a little over that on September 14th from that project. And then we also have the fire hardening project, which we're currently working on, but again, that's like less than 10% where we're at right now. Urban community drought relief, this is a federal share of 4.5 million. We've received a total of a little less than 1.1 since June. This is for the Felton Heights, Redwood Park, Echo, Highland, and South, which I believe we've completed Highland. And so this is calculations I've done on what we've received in the last few years from FEMA. So as you can see, it's like, it looked like when we first started working with Aptum in 2023, things started going up. And then I don't know what happened in 2024. And then now we're back up to almost 700,000 in 2025. And I'm being very hopeful and optimistic that we'll have the $1 million mark in 2023. Don't hold me to it. This one I edited since the last time I had sent it out. I'm hoping that this was answering Bob's question. The 4301 event, like I was saying, we have 6 projects. As you can see, 5 of the 6 have been completed. We got one that one I had to fight with them on because they weren't going to pay us at all. So I'm still waiting for the funds for that one. I'm hoping. And it's the same thing. 4308, same thing. We got 5 out of 6 completed. We got one that we're pending. 4558. That one we've got, half. We've about 50% there. And so this just helps you kind of see where each event is. There's so many projects that were listed under that one event. And I think that we should have, like I said, anything over $1 million probably should have been its own. And the small ones, I think we could have combined those just fine because those are paying out, right away. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. If it's quick, Bob, because I want to ask a more general question of all.
It's reasonably quick on this particular slide here. So from a summary slide point of view, probably just grabbing the major ones would be great. I really appreciate putting this together. The other thing, though, based on what I've learned tonight, is that you probably need to have a column with some kind of a gauge saying, hey, we're 50% done on these projects, because it's clear to me that how you capture the projects or file the project is key to when you get paid. So in fact, our inability to get paid in a lot of this stuff isn't entirely due to FEMA.
No, it's not.
It's like due to us.
Yes, that's right.
And so I think that needs to be captured somehow as part of a summary slide. That this, where we are on how far through.
Well, and that's why, I put percentage of work completed, right? We've completed 83% of this event, but we've only received 63% of the money.
Yeah.
And as you go down, that number changes significantly.
So the bottom line for me is that we're sitting at about 2 out of 22 or 9%. I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm assuming the logic was that we lump all these projects together. It looks more devastating. Your odds of getting FEMA money or.
I can't figure out. I don't want to speculate on that because I can't do anything about how we submit it in. Going forward, we can't. But I want to ask, I have some specific questions on this. I think this has been a good discussion. But as another board member pointed out, it's 9 o'clock. Do we continue this discussion tonight? Or do we come back at another board meeting and continue this based on what Jen has told us to ask further questions? So continue tonight or come back at another.
So given that I think this has to roll into the loan that's going to be taken out relative to when things actually get done, and given a 5-year projection on budget, I think it's a much bigger conversation than just what we can have tonight.
I think it is. Yeah.
Agreed.
So
even if we wanted to go later, I don't think we could have
running out of energy, but I wanted to hear from this end of the table.
I find this information rich and fascinating. I would like to see a some way of integrating the prioritization table that you shared, Garrett, with the opportunities to liberate funds by closing out different disasters, and think that that exercise would be helpful. I don't, maybe you guys are probably looking at that already. And I'd be happy to take this up at a later time.
Okay, and that's continue or later.
Yeah,
Since you were the one that brought up the 9 o'clock.
Well, it's past my bedtime, so.
Right.
Yeah, but if we have lots of, if you have lots of questions, maybe we could just roll this over
I do have. more
onto the next
questions
one where
on it.
people are a little bit more fresh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. so,
But I really appreciate this, Jen,
Jason,
and all this work. It's
do you
really amazing.
have any questions on the kind of direction that I'm giving or that the board's giving on bring this back?
I understand.
Then I do have to say before we close, I continued, and I've seen some of this over the last 6 months now, because I was seeing some of this when Jen was the acting GM for us for a period of time. I continue to be impressed by what you're doing in tracking these FEMA grants. The level of input that I see into one of the charts with, well, on April 4th, here's what they said. On April 12th, the next week, here's what they said. Just to me shows the doggedness of following through on these. And I fully expect that FEMA on their side is saying now, oh, there's somebody there at the water district that's paying attention to this. I've got to be more on my game now, and I've got to be more responsive. So good.
And
Thank you.
She's established a relationship with the people at FEMA, so.
Yes. Uh-huh.
They moved my project to the top
And
of the
how
priority list.
critical
Nice.
is that to getting paid?
Having a relationship.
Good. Okay. So with that, I'd like to conclude that item.
Unfortunately, we have to pull the minutes.
Okay, I'm searching for what's next on the help me out here. Okay, the consent agenda. Okay, does anybody wish to talk about or pull either one of those two?
The minutes.
Okay.
There's a typo. No, I was not absent.
Okay.
Yeah, I voted on things, so.
Are we okay with you providing your feedback to staff in a 2-sentence email and bring those minutes back to us at another meeting?
Oh, can we just accept them with me changing it to me being present? That's all that.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
It says excused absence, but I voted on.
Motion to accept the minutes with the
the
revision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to do that, then there is another typo.
Okay.
Oh, no.
So it'd be
That one we caught.
No, we
catch
got,
the
didn't,
absence.
didn't catch. Yeah, I
gonna
will
let it
change the
pass.
spelling of your name and I'll make sure that you are listed.
Oh, my name's spelled wrong.
There's also a direct and it needs an OR after it. Just above it.
Okay. So with those recommended changes, are we okay with with approving the minutes then? Okay, what about the other item that's on here?
Is this the one you were talking
The house abandonment change order. Do we need to talk about that one? Then with those changes, I want to recommend that the board approve the consent agenda.
Recommend or move?
Move. Yes.
Second.
Okay. Pardon?
Oh, sorry.
He's pulling it.
It is 9:04.
Why I'm trying to get through this
Sorry.
while we still have some,
Long day.
I understand. I'm trying to,
President Smalley,
yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Director Foltz,
Yes.
Director Larday.
Yes.
And Director Rice.
Yes.
Okay, motion
Okay.
passes.
All right. The district reports, the Miller Maxfield communications.
Oh,
I don't see that we need to do anything on that as the chairperson. Written communications, we have none. Informational material, none. Can we adjourn? Okay,
yes.
thank you, folks, for listening to a long meeting. Uh,
So every board meeting that I went to in Richmond, there was a gentleman on the board who worked for the Navy, he worked for DOD.